Welcome, Braveheart, to the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast. I have something rather special that I would like to wrap up in 2021 with. At the beginning of this year, I had created 10 core messages that I wanted my Bravehearts to hear and to know immediately after going through heartbreak, or it doesn't have to be immediately, but as soon as they found me. All of my content in 2021 was a reflection of these 10 core messages, but I never really shared them directly with all of you. So I thought, what a fun way to wrap up 2021 with my Bravehearts by sharing these 10 core messages. These are 10 things I'd love every human to know when it comes to heartbreak. I'll be talking about two of them each day for the next 5 days so that we cover them all. And I'd love for you to not only hear them, Braveheart, but embody them, share them, and join me in the Braveheart movement. Make them your truths because they sure are mine. I am so grateful to have you here, Braveheart. Let's do this. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Number one, time has nothing to do with your healing. Time has nothing to do with getting over your ex. It doesn't have anything to do with healing. Time does not equate to healing. Now, the reason we say this is that because over time we have more experiences that help us shift our story or our perspective, right? I think many of us see this in a number of ways in a bunch of different varieties of our life. Maybe you didn't get the first job you applied to, but then after you applied to the second and the third, and you finally created and got the fourth job, it's easy then to say, oh, that's what happened. It happened for me, not to me. It was supposed to happen that way the entire time. And that collection of experiences help us solidify the story that we tell ourselves. Oh, it didn't mean that it wasn't good enough. It just meant that I was supposed to get a better job. But it was harder for you to believe that when you didn't have the result versus now you have the result of the better job. And it's easier for you, for your mind to believe that. The second thing, or the second reason I believe that we use time and say that time is what heals, is it's easy to say that to someone who's hurting. It takes the responsibility off of them, which we think helps. Like, oh, it's not your fault. It's just going to take time for you to heal. But in reality, it then plants the seed that there's nothing that they can do but wait for the time to pass. And the problem with this is it takes the responsibility from you, the person going through the heartbreak or the pain, and puts it in the hands of something that is passive, that happens with or without you, right? Time is passive, but you're the active force within that time. Now, when I say all of this and I mention that time does not heal, this doesn't mean we have to rush heartbreak or our healing. There's no hurry. We just need to take responsibility for the healing and recognize that it doesn't have to be long if we don't want it to be. It doesn't have to take an extreme amount of time. We don't need to make sure that we take a year off from everything. It gets to be as long as we would like it. Now, what would it be like to challenge the mind with time? Wouldn't it be wild if I could get over this in 3 months or less? What would that be like? What would happen? Who would I be? What would my life be like? What do I make that mean about me or the situation? If time has nothing to do with healing, what does? Now, I'm going to talk more about this later in a different message, but a simple answer to this is addressing a number of stories you've made up in your mind. Thoughts, right, create the way we feel. Optional sentences in our brain, AKA our thoughts, create how we feel. I feel loved by my current partner, not because of what he does or what he says, but because of my thoughts and interpretation of those words from that person. Because he could come up to you Braveheart and say, I love you. And you wouldn't know him. And you'd have a lot of different thoughts and feelings about the same exact circumstance. Now, you feel hurt in your breakup because of the stories you've made up in your mind, the very optional stories you've made up based on the breakup. Right? What am I making it mean about me? What am I making that breakup mean about me? What am I making his words mean about me? And addressing all these stories is what truly heals us from the inside out. Becoming aware of them, questioning those optional stories, and then rewriting them in a way that heals, that empowers you, and uplifts the human heart. We're going to have scary stories about feeling and experiencing the heartbreak, right? We're going to have scary stories about what we're making the breakup mean about you or me, right? I wasn't good enough. I messed up. I'm a terrible person. I'm not lovable. The scary stories that you might have about closure. What does it mean to let go? And when you have stories meaning, oh my gosh, it's done forever, when I actually create closure, it actually prevents you from closing that chapter. We've also got disempowering stories about your future that keep you attached to your ex that will also need to be brought into the light, questioned, and then rewritten. When we first become aware of those stories, and then second, question the validity of those stories, it begins to wiggle everything loose. And we've got to decide on and commit to and practice the new stories that we rewrite. And those, being able to go through that process, that is what heals, not time. If you don't do that within the time that you have, you don't heal. You hold on to that stuff from your past. None of those steps, becoming aware of the stories you're telling yourself, questioning their validity, deciding, committing, and practicing new stories, none of those take time. They simply take making the decision to do this heartbreak differently, to be different, to choose different, which feels extremely uncomfortable. Showing up in a new way is uncomfortable, but it's also very liberating. Deciding differently equates to getting a different result. If we keep doing the same thing, we're going to continue to get the same result. So, what I want you to know is that time doesn't determine your healing, you do. And that's a very good thing. You can feel relieved knowing that this won't take forever. And if it's already been forever, you can make one decision today to choose differently. And that decision today could get you over your ex in a moment if you let it. Number two, this happened for you, not to you. Now, sometimes in life, we feel like everything is going against us. None of it's working out. We're swimming upstream. It feels hard. It feels off. Something isn't right. Even then, and really especially then, I want you to know that it's happening for you and not to you. Now, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, is always conspiring and reordering your life for you and the highest good of all of humanity. It is unfolding perfectly. And I want you to think about this back in the day where there were no humans on the planet. Everything ran exactly as it needed to. It didn't mean there weren't fires. It didn't mean there wasn't devastation, but it was all working in divine timing. It was all working exactly the way it needed to for the bigger picture, right? And it might even be course correcting for you. I talk a lot and I teach a lot about trust inside of the Get Over Your Ex program. And there are multiple layers of trust. And when you have trust in a higher power, it's going to make it easier to trust yourself because you trust that the higher power is going to fix anything you make a mistake on. Like, God doesn't make a mistake, but I absolutely will in this lifetime. So I'm glad that the universe has my back on that and can course correct me at any moment. So, this breakup, even when it feels like it's the worst thing in the world right now, it is genuinely all happening for you. It's either waking you up to a new reality you didn't even know you wanted. It might be waking you up to what wasn't working, waking you up to ways of being that weren't authentic to you. There is so much around you that is happening for you. And I know that it might feel like the life you built up is all crumbling and you're like, But what? I spent so much time and effort on this amazing, beautiful world. Why are you destroying it? And what we all have to get on board with is that every time it crumbles, because this won't be the last time your life crumbles in some way, shape, or form, it's because it's supposed to be bigger and it's supposed to be better. And it doesn't mean that the life that you spent so much effort and time on doesn't mean anything or was all for nothing. It was to help you learn how to build the bigger and better life. Without those experiences, maybe you wouldn't even known that a bigger and better life was available. It always works out. It always gets better. What if that was the way you lived your life? It's always working out for me and not to me. And I want to give you permission to feel determined that this breakup is happening for you. I give you permission to look at it, find it, talk about all the ways that this breakup is working out in your favor, even when you didn't ask for it, even when you didn't necessarily, or maybe still don't want it to happen. Because when you do that, your determination will build and look for and find all the ways this happened for you. Because what's the opposite, Bravehearts? It's happening to me, and then you're left helpless with nothing you can do to help yourself. And that is no way to live. So, Braveheart, this breakup is happening for you, not to you, even when it doesn't feel like it. And what would it be like to believe so hard in this? What would it lead to? How might your life change? How might you actually feel? Right? Explore all of that. I am sending you all of the love, dear Braveheart. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. If you're loving the 10 things you need to hear after a breakup series and they are truly resonating with you, I'd like to personally invite you to the Get Over Your Ex in 3 Months or Less program that is now open for enrollment, where we not only hear these messages, but we live them to not only get over our exes, but build a life bigger and better than the one that we had with our exes. Now, Braveheart, I promise you, you will get over your ex, but please know you're invited to do it differently with a group of Bravehearts who have your back and are cheering you on in a whole new way you've never experienced before. You are not alone. You are fully supported. I'm here when you are ready. I love you so much, my badass Braveheart. Just keep going.